Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of my absolute favorite what-if scenarios in the Harry Potter universe. What if Neville Longbottom, not Harry Potter, had been the chosen one? Yeah, that shy, forgetful kid who could barely keep track of his toad. Imagine him standing up to Voldemort instead. Sounds wild, right? But when you really think about it, the prophecy could have easily been about Neville, and honestly, the entire wizarding world might have looked completely different. What if on that fateful night in Godric's Hollow, Voldemort had chosen differently? What if the Dark Lord hadn't gone after baby Harry, but baby Neville Longbottom instead? It's one of the most fascinating what-ifs in the entire Harry Potter universe, and one that completely changes the course of wizarding history. Because, as Dumbledore once said, it was not prophecy that made you who you are, Harry. It was your choices. But what happens when those choices belong to someone else? Let's imagine that night again. Two families, the Potters and the Longbottoms, both had sons born at the end of July, both marked by the prophecy, both having parents who had defied Voldemort 3 times. In another world, Voldemort might have believed that Neville, not Harry, but yeah, was the real threat. So he goes to the Longbottoms' home instead. The attack plays out differently. Maybe Lily's love never shields Harry that night, because he wasn't the target. Maybe Neville becomes the one marked by the curse, and in doing so, he becomes the boy who lived. But Neville's story wouldn't have been the same as Harry's. Unlike Harry, Neville was raised not by Muggles, but by his formidable grandmother, Augusta Longbottom, a woman who valued strength, tradition, and reputation. She loved Neville, of course, but in a strict, unyielding kind of way. If Neville had been the chosen one, he would have grown up under immense pressure to live up to a legend, not of survival, but of expectation. The wizarding world would have looked at him not as the clumsy boy who keeps losing his toad, but as the symbol of hope against darkness. And that kind of burden changes people. Would he have crumbled under the weight, or would that pressure have forged him into steel? See, the interesting thing about Neville is that he already was the chosen one in his own way. He just wasn't the one Voldemort chose. Throughout the books, Neville's Arkmir's, Harry's in quiet, subtle ways, both lose their parents to the war, both are raised by people who never truly understand them, both join Dumbledore's army and fight for what's right, even when they're afraid. But while Harry's bravery is loud, Neville's is quiet, bécaye, and sometimes quiet courage takes even more strength. If Neville had been the chosen one, the story would have been darker in some ways. He didn't grow up with friends like Ron and Hermione to ground him in love and loyalty. He might have been more isolated, more unsure of himself, perhaps even haunted by guilt. Imagine Neville walking through Hogwarts knowing the world expected him to save it, while secretly doubting if he ever could. That kind of doubt creates a different kind of hero. When we look at Neville in the series, he's the one who constantly fails, until it matters most. That's the beauty of his character. He grows not from confidence, but from perseverance, from humiliation, from loss. If he had been the chosen one, that growth would have been even more powerful, because he would have been forced to rise again and again, under the public eye, not just in private moments. Now imagine Voldemort's reaction. He believed in destiny, in bloodlines, in superiority. When the prophecy said, "Born to those who have thrice defied him," Voldemort assumed the child most like himself. The half-blood Harry was the threat, but what if he'd chosen Neville instead? He would have been destroyed by his own arrogance, because Neville represented everything Voldemort despised: humility, kindness, and love that doesn't need recognition. If Voldemort marked Neville, then Neville's story becomes one of poetic irony. He's the son of Aurors, both driven mad by Bellatrix Lestrange. Imagine the emotional gravity of that final battle. Neville facing Bellatrix, not as Harry's friend, but as the boy whose entire life was defined by her cruelty. The prophecy would come full circle, not with Harry's scar, but with Neville's vengeance. And let's be honest, Neville already fulfilled part of the prophecy. Either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. In the Battle of Hogwarts, Neville kills Nagini, the final Horcrux, effectively making Voldemort mortal again. Without that act, Harry's sacrifice wouldn't have worked. In that moment, Neville stepped into the role of the Chosen One, whether destiny wanted him or not. So what if destiny always belonged to both of them? Maybe that's the real point J.K. Rowling was hinting at. The prophecy could have gone either way, because heroism doesn't belong to fate, it belongs to choice. Harry and Neville represent two paths to courage, one born in the spotlight and one grown in the shadows. If Neville had been the chosen one, Hogwarts might have looked a little different. He might have been more cautious, less reckless, maybe slower to act, but when he did, he'd act with absolute conviction. His friendship with Luna might have deepened because she too understood what it felt like to be underestimated. Hermione might have still been his ally, perhaps even more so, seeing his gentleness as strength rather than weakness. Ron, on the other hand, might have stayed in the background, his confidence never finding its footing without Harry's leadership. The trio we know could have become a completely different dynamic, one grounded in quiet resilience rather than bold defiance, and then there's Dumbledore. Would he have mentored Neville the same way? Possibly. But he might have been more protective, seeing Neville's insecurities and trying to shield him from the manipulations of prophecy. Yet Dumbledore, ever the chess player, might have seen the same thing in Neville that he saw in Harry, a kind of moral compass that can't be taught, only tested. Neville, as the chosen one, would have made for a slower, more emotional story, less about adventure and more about internal strength. Instead of dueling Voldemort with fireworks and drama, Neville's final confrontation might have been quieter, him standing in defiance, wand shaking, but heart steady, because that's who Neville is. He doesn't fight to win glory, he fights because it's right. And in that way, maybe he was always the chosen one. Not the one destiny picked, but the one life built. When we think about it, Harry's greatest quality was his ability to love and inspire others. Neville's was his ability to endure and never give up. The world needs both kinds of heroes, like the ones who lead and the ones who hold the line. Honestly, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. His courage, his loyalty, that underdog energy. Neville was always destined for greatness, even if the prophecy didn't name him directly. What do you think? Would Neville have been a better chosen one than Harry, or did fate choose right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Harry Potter universe, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more what if stories, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and peace out.